Hello, my name's Hope. This is Let's Do Lunch. Thank you for joining. Yes, I will post recipes once we're done here. So today we are making one of my favorite recipes. It is from a blog. It's not one that I came up with. This is from Two Peas in Their Pod, and it's called Black Bean Salad, which I think is a really unexciting name for a kind of exciting dish. And one of the things that I really love about this dish is that it is really colorful. And I actually am going to kind of follow the colors of the rainbow and talk about how we're getting in all these colors, because not only is that a great way to pack in a bunch of nutrients, but it's also a way to make it very beautiful. And we all know that we eat with our eyes first. So we're going to really be putting that into practice today. So I'm going to offer a couple of time-saving tricks for this recipe. When you look at a recipe like this, it kind of looks like a chop-a-thon, like there's a lot of chopping going on. So I'll try to show you other ways to save time in other areas so that you can really make the most of your time. So my first time-saving trick is that I'm going to be making this directly in the container that I'm going to store it in. I just have some sort of natural reflex that I just reach for a glass mixing bowl every time. But I know I'm going to have a lot of this. It's a great meal prep recipe where you're going to end up with, enough to kind of get you through several days worth of lunches, not just today, several days. And so I'm going to just skip that original mixing bowl and make it directly into my Tupperware so that it's ready for the week. And I can skip washing that mixing bowl, because we all know washing dishes, not the best way to spend time. All right, so it's black bean salad. We're going to start with our black beans. I've got a can. I'm doing a pop chop. I'm going to drain them and rinse them, because this salad is really fresh and refreshing tasting, and canned beans can be a little bit slimy if you don't rinse and drain and rinse them. I'm dumping out all of the beans. These ones really want to stick in the bottom of the can today. And I'm just rinsing them in the colander to get that slime off and make them nice and fresh, I guess. Put a towel underneath to keep things from going crazy. All right, so beans in the colander, directly in, not that earth shattering. So now that I've got my beans, I'm going to start on my rainbow. So we're going to start with the first color, which is red. So for that, we've got cherry tomatoes. This dish really sings with fresh summer produce. And since we live in Vermont, we have access to wonderful fresh produce. These tomatoes are fresh. Look, there's a bunch of them that are looking really sad and shrivelly. I'm pulling them out. The rest of them look fine. So once tomatoes are in season, maybe you grow them, maybe you get them from a farmer nearby. But until we hit tomato season in Vermont, it's grocery store tomatoes. So the recipe is going to say to slice them all in half. And that is great if you've got the time, but I'm just going to throw them in whole because I don't really have the time. Yeah, there's a lot of squashy ones. I don't really have the time in our 15 minutes today, but also if I throw them in whole, it's going to make this salad stay fresh a little bit longer. So if I cut them in half, that exposed edge is going to be a way for some of the salt to get in and kind of start breaking those tomatoes down. And to keep this fresh for a couple days, I'm just going to leave them whole. They're going to be a little package. Saves me some time, also helps this salad to taste fresh and great for many days. A lot of shrivelly tomatoes. All right, so that's red. The next thing we're going to do is orange, and I've got an orange pepper for that. So this is going to get the most chopping. I'm going to just give this a rinse. I think the official recipe calls for a red pepper, but we already have red, so I'm just going to do an orange pepper. Everybody's got their own way to slice a pepper. I generally go all the way around halfway, break it in half, and scoop out the middle parts. This orange pepper doesn't really have too many middle parts, not too many seeds and ribs. Pull them out, put them in the compost. And then I'm just gonna go with my knife, some cuts along this direction and then along this direction. So I'll take my flat side that I have just cut and put that down. So I've got the skin side up, making sure I have a nice sharp knife, just going across into strips. And thankfully, nobody's coming here to judge how evenly these are cut. So I'm just going to, can I lower the camera? I kind of can't, I'm sorry. I'm using my phone today, so I'm just gonna try to hold things up as much as I can. I think if I try to lower it, then it will just fall over. So I'm sorry about that. So we've got our orange peppers. Maybe I can lift this up somehow. Try lifting up my cutting board. That didn't do anything, sorry. All right, chopping pepper. And the other way, I like to pull out the little stem that's at the butt, but some people throw it in. I like to pull it out. Okay, so that's the orange. Got red, orange. Next is yellow. So for yellow, we're using corn. And again, corn is one of those really wonderful, fresh Vermont local delicacies that we can get in the summertime. We're not quite to corn season yet. So I'm using frozen corn, and it's great for off season, but it's also great as a time saver. So if you've got fresh corn, you're gonna cut it off the cob. You'll just kind of stand your one end of the cob up in a bowl and slice down with a sharp knife. And it tends to make a mess. A lot of the times that mess is worth it for that fresh local corn. And a lot of the times you don't have time for the mess. So frozen is just as good. The other trick for this corn is that we are not going to cook it. You might or might not know that corn, if you eat it raw, is really sweet. And so we're gonna just put raw corn into the salad. If you're using frozen corn, you don't even have to defrost it. It's gonna kind of act like a built-in ice pack. Maybe you're going on a picnic and you wanna keep this salad chilled a little bit. I'm throwing it in frozen. By the time I'm ready to eat this, even if it's like 10 minutes, it will be defrosted and fine. So whether you use fresh corn and cut it off, or frozen corn and throw it in, which takes 2 seconds, we're not gonna cook it. So fresh corn, raw corn is the most delicious. All right, so we've got red, orange, yellow. And next we have green. So we'll do cilantro for the green. I know there are a lot of cilantro haters in the world. So if you're a cilantro hater, one idea that I have, I'm just gonna slice the stem end off a little bit, but not pick every little bit off. If you're a cilantro hater, one idea that I have is maybe arugula. So it's gonna give you some greens and some color and some leaves. But if you are a cilantro hater, I would love to hear your ideas for what can replace it. And I'll ask you to unmute because I'm gonna go and wash this. So shout them out.
Bean sprouts.
Bean sprouts, that's really good.
Parsley.
Parsley is a great swap, absolutely. Both of those. Bean sprouts I had not thought of. Very nice. All right, so for this, I just rinsed it. I'm just going to give it a rough chop. Maybe there's some thicker stems that I'm gonna pull out, but for the most part, we're just going straight down. I know that a lot of times a barrier to using fresh herbs is that they're kind of annoying to pick off all their little stems. Some of them you don't really need to. You can just chop them pretty finely and throw them in. So with cilantro and parsley, a lot of the flavor is in the stems. So if you just chop them up pretty fine, it gives some nice flavor and some nice crunch. All right, so this recipe calls for a half a cup of cilantro. I'm gonna use this whole bunch because A, I really like cilantro and I wanna put a lot in. B, it's gonna kind of act as a leafy green. It's nutritious and it kind of acts like a salad green. And finally, I'm going out of town this weekend and I have no other use for cilantro. So if I don't put it all in this salad, then it's just gonna get soggy and gross. All right, red, orange, green. And next we're going to do an onion. So we're doing our red onion for purple. I guess I'll call it a purple onion today. So an onion is sometimes a daunting thing to chop. I think I've explained it before, but I'll share my method again. So first I'm going to slice off the root end and the stem end. So just 2 quick slices. See, it's got 2 flat ends now. Then I'm going to put it flat end down and slice directly through. And I've got my 2 halves here. And I'm going to peel off that outer layer that's got my skin on it. Honestly, it's kind of a blessing that I can't carry my camera down today because I'm making a royal mess on the countertop, and you don't need to do that. All right, so now that I've got my naked half, I think I'm gonna just put in half of this total onion because I find red onion to be pretty strong, and so a little goes a long way, in my opinion. If you really like red onion, feel free to put the whole thing in. So now that I've got this in half here, I'm gonna put it flat side down on the cutting board and do a series of cuts one direction and then a series of cuts the other direction. And that's really it. I know some people think that chopping onions takes a really long time, but I'm just doing one direction, trying to keep it all together if I can, and then turning it 90 degrees and going the other way. The other advantage for you not being able to see what I am doing is that you won't even know if I cut myself, but I didn't. We're all good. Okay, so I've got half of this red onion put in. So that is pretty much all of the vegetables, red, orange, yellow, green, and purple. So next we're going to do our dressing. I think before that, I'm gonna just pop this lid on and gently combine. Somebody's talking about taking the bite out of red onions. They say like if you run it under cold water or maybe soak it in cold water, that can make it less intense. Honestly, I just usually use less than the recipe calls for. Cooking it is another good way. If you're putting it into something that's cooked, it generally is less bitey, but raw red onion, I agree. It has a lot of bite. And so I just use less. Okay, so I kind of just gently mixed that. The cilantro went everywhere, but you can see it's really nice and colorful. And so the next thing we're going to do is put a dressing on it. And that dressing is the reason that I think this salad is really easy and I really like it, because most salads, we do the dressing in a separate and pour it on. And this one, we're just going to put every dressing ingredient directly in the bowl with it. Saves us another bowl of cleaning, saves us more stirring, more mixing. We're just going to drizzle all the things. Somebody's asking about what kind of beans. These are black beans. I guess you could use any kind, but this is named black bean salad, so these are black beans. All right, so we need juice of a lime and a half. So here are my 2 limes. Oh, I threw one across the kitchen. Now it's rolling across the floor. I'll try another one. Here are my 2 limes. Giving them a quick rinse. Taking the stickers off. I'm just going to slice them in half and just squeeze them with my hands. I used to have a fancy lemon squeezer, but it broke. So now my fancy lemon squeezer is just attached to my hands. I'm going to put it between the heels of my hands and use all my hand strength to squeeze it. Now this calls for 1.5 limes. I like things really limey. I'm going to start with 1.5, and then I'm probably potentially going to add a 4th half. So it might be 2 whole limes. Although these limes are pretty juicy, 1.5 might do it. Getting close to my time, I'm going to have to squeeze limes double time. That's an important step that I often forget to talk about, which is tasting and adjusting as you go. So making sure that you're tasting your food before you serve it so that you know it's exactly what you want it to be. All right, 1.5 to 2 limes. We will do a spoon of olive oil just directly in. Not too much because we don't want it to get too soggy. We want it to last in the fridge Really good. Half a teaspoon of chili powder. Here it is. Saw somebody said it's not always easy to find juicy limes. I know it is not always easy, and therefore I end up buying extra and just using more limes. And these ones are surprisingly pretty good. Now we're doing a quarter teaspoon of cumin. Excuse me. And a teaspoon of salt. And lid on. And instead of stirring, I'm just going to kind of gently rotate my Tupperware. I guess that technically saves me a spoon to wash. Man, I really hate washing dishes. Okay, so that's our salad. I'm at time. I'm going to go ahead and plate it up a little bit. If you want to hop off, that's fine. I'm going to put it in a bowl because the last ingredient for this is avocado. And since avocados are really fragile, I'm going to just keep my avocado in its little skin and top each individual one before I eat it to kind of keep that avocado and slimy. So here's my plated up bowl of this black bean salad. And I'm gonna do a little bit of giving it a rinse to show good produce hygiene habits. Cutting this baby in half. It's perfect. It's a miracle. Thank you. It does look fresh and delicious. It's one of my freshest recipes that I know of. So while I'm getting this ready, I will say this is great for meal prep, and you can eat it a bunch of different ways. So I like to eat it just kind of as is. My partner likes to put it in a tortilla and have it as part of a wrap. If I'm having it kind of as a snack, I like to have it with tortilla chips and kind of scoop it up with chips. You could put it on lettuce for a more, salady salad, or you could also add more things to it to make it a more balanced meal. So if you wanted to add a little more protein, you could do some chicken on top or some shrimp. I think grilled shrimp would be so good with this. You could even put a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese on it, or maybe some crumbled Mexican cheese. And there's a lot of different things you can do. Grilled tofu, sure, why not? Maybe put some lime on that tofu, maybe some tahini if you have that. So that's the end of black bean salad. I think it needs a more creative name, but it's super fresh and delicious. And if you make it, let me know how you like it. Talk to you later. Thanks for coming. Bye.